Hello and welcome back. This might not be the longest video. Not really a heavy topic either. Something that really helped me though, quite a bit, in becoming more the person that I always, putting it better, to fulfill, or I can't speak. There's always a certain potential in every person, and a lot of the times we don't fulfill those potentials within us because of external habits and a lot of the internal chatter inside of you. Kind of you can become your own worst enemy. So this is more of a video on how I unlocked a lot of that potential that was within me already. And really simply, I started growing plants. So early on after the awakening, I got an interest in maybe growing some plants. And at first I had no real understanding why or how this was going to help. But one thing that I found after taking care of plants, let me just show you what I have here. Just quickly, I have quite a bit more in the whole apartment. I have a little video tour. And I found that after you learn to take care of plants, a lot of the skills required in taking care of plants are directly transferable to you in your spiritual development, and the extra energy that you have from taking care of things eventually grows, and you can use that extra energy to do a lot of the things that you always wanted to do in your life. So for example, making videos for me was always something that was interesting. I always like talking about these sort of things. And there was a time where I tried to grow a lot of different plants. And I got to a point where it was too much for me. I had too many plants growing. So what I did is it kind of goes up and down on the spectrum of too much, not enough, too much, and you kind of play with this spectrum of how much energy and time you have to give to taking care of plants. And what happened, I noticed, is that as the spectrum would go up and there would be would go back down, when I would go lower than the amount of energy I had to grow plants or to give plants care and love, there would be this gap here. So here I was growing too many plants, here I wasn't growing enough, and instead of filling this gap with extra plants, I noticed I could use that extra gap of energy for other things as well. So this strange thing kind of happened where I started doing crafts, creating some wands, wood carving, that sort of thing. I made a few spoons. That wood behind me is exactly for that, for more creative tasks. I basically found that by experimenting with how much plants I could take care of, I ended up actually creating a space where I could fill with other types of hobbies that I enjoyed. And eventually I found kind of an equilibrium where I was growing the right amount of plants that I wanted to take care of. But again, I still had this extra space that I had developed from, this trial and error process. So, and that's just one part, thing that really helped me when it comes to growing plants. That's just one way that it helped me. It helped to give me more energy to put in other creative tasks that I wanted to accomplish or try or do in my life. Another way that it really helped me, and in the spiritual sense, which is extremely, extremely useful, I see it, to me, I find it is, in spirituality, in life, people tend to put more effort into the end result than the tiny details and the steps that lead up to the goal. People tend to daydream about what it's going to be like when I get this and when I do this. But when it comes to the work that you need in order to reach your goal, a lot of it seems monotonous, can feel boring. We seem to want the end result more than we want to work on the little steps that lead to the end result. So the point I'm trying to make is, when it comes to growing plants, you learn fairly quickly that you need to have a good soil. And you also learn that not every plant requires the same type of soil, the same combination of nutrients, pH. You learn all about those little details that if you didn't take care of all those monotonous and little tedious parts of growing plants, that your plants would never actually thrive. So in seeing, and first of all, in failing many times by trying a very straightforward, simple approach to plants, seeing that each plant needs different care, it taught me to be more observant, more aware that not every situation is the same. It showed me that I need to put more care into the steps leading up to the result if I want a certain result. And the plants would show it. I could see that the plants would look more dry, wilted. You could see a direct correlation between the small steps that lead to the big steps. And with plants, it's nice because you can see this within a few days. Oftentimes, your plant will show you very quickly whether or not what you're doing is enough or works. So oftentimes we do these large projects, like trying to get a new job or going to college and that sort of thing, where there could be years invested. And if you are not careful in taking care of the details leading up to your end goal, it might be too little too late. You might not have spent enough time in the details early on, and then your end result is not quite what you were hoping for, what you expected. So growing plants, you get an immediate feedback very quickly. You can see that the care that you give at the early stages in your soil, in the steps that you're not necessarily that interested in, give you a direct result for the end result. So you learn that very quickly, and you can apply that, and I do apply that in every other area of my life. And also, having learned that not to take on too much at once, because I had gone through this process of too many plants, overwhelmed, not enough plants, do more. And in this process, I learned where my limit is. And I learned that I can also expand my limit by pushing the boundaries, right? And not to expect as well, another thing that I learned from growing plants is not to expect my best effort on my best days to be sustainable. That some days I'm going to be able to give more, some days I'm going to be able to give less, and that cycle goes weekly, monthly, yearly as well. So I learned a certain level that works, how to also create more energy, and also how not to become overwhelmed. Because oftentimes, if you're doing a new project in your life, you might not get that direct feedback that plants give you, but to learn the lesson in this way, you can see, oh, I'm overdoing it now. So it teaches you to take better care of yourself as well. You understand that you are also a life form. You are also like a plant, the better you take care of the little things like your sleep, your diet, your exercise, that sort of thing, flexibility, all the little steps, you learn that you learn how to take care of yourself better. So there's a lot of steps, a lot of life lessons that I found, and that is not all of them, by all means. That's just all that I can think of off the top of my head without a script while talking to you in front of a camera. Okay? And I encourage you that if you've never tried to grow plants for yourself, to do so, because growing plants can teach you a lot about life, can teach you a lot about yourself. Something very, very simple, right? Get some soil, put a couple seeds, put some water, and experiment with plants. And if you're looking for a good reason, well, the air quality inside of your home is actually much more poor than it is outside in a lot of places around the world. And a simple plant like this one here, this is a spider plant, one about this size, a spider plant about this size can produce enough oxygen for about half of this room. So I have two in here plus a third one way up at the top there. So there's ample oxygen in this room, actually more than is needed. So just sitting in here is actually a treatment for my lungs. I'm getting very clean, purified oxygen. I don't need to buy this filter and have to buy these replacements. I don't need to use the electricity as well to run an air purifier. And a thing with the air purifier, it takes out a lot of the negative stuff in the air, but it doesn't necessarily produce brand new oxygen for you. And these plants, spider plants, will help purify the air. They'll take out a lot of the carbon that you breathe out, and they will produce new air for you to breathe. So there's just a few things for you to think about. Yeah, it's always nice to have a simple hobby. So a little bit of a lighter video, nothing too serious. I hope you enjoyed the content, that video. Feel free to leave any comments if you want to know anything about growing plants, or if you're interested in starting yourself. I'd love to help. So I'll leave you with that, wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Get growing. Peace.